We're taking you live now to Wellington in New Zealand, where officials involved in the recovery operation of bodies on White Island are speaking.
All of government response, many of which are represented both here and on the ground in Whakatane. Every agency is 100% committed to the recovery and return of the bodies of those still on the island. I'd like to pass on the thoughts and condolences of every one of us to those who have lost a loved one and reiterate that we stand alongside the families and friends of everyone affected by this event and offer our full support. As you will have heard earlier today, Graham will speak to it shortly, GNS Science have advised that there is still a 50 to 60% chance of a further eruption in the next 24 hours. GNS Science and the National Geohazards Monitoring Centre continue to monitor Waikato, White Island, and have been doing so since the eruption occurred on Monday, both from on the ground in Whakatane and also in Wellington. The Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group continue to focus on providing welfare support for those affected and their families, and an information civil defence centre is open at 4 Commerce Street, adjacent to the Whakatane District Council. Immigration New Zealand are assisting with border clearance processes and connections to police family liaison services for any whānau travelling from overseas. I'd like to reiterate that those travelling from other countries other than Australia will require either a visa or a New Zealand Electronic Travel Authority. Full information about this is available on immigration.govt.nz website, and they will be expediting those requests for families. The National Emergency Management Agency has issued an all-of-government fact sheet providing all of the details people may need following the event, including where to find help and support. This is available on our website, civildefence.govt.nz. We've also updated the website to include the most up-to-date information regarding the status of the recovery operation, the volcanic activity on Waikato, White Island, and the status of those affected as reported by the police and the Ministry of Health. This information is being updated twice a day and will include the latest information available. Before I hand over to Dr. Bloomfield, I'd like to briefly read the media statement just issued by Deputy Police Commissioner John Timms in relation to the recovery operation. I can now confirm that we are finalising a plan to recover the bodies from Waikato, White Island tomorrow morning. Families will be briefed on the operation at 4:30 p.m. today, and Deputy Commissioner Mike Clement will speak with media in Whakatane. Details for the media briefing will be confirmed shortly. Thank you. I'd now like to hand over to Ashley Bloomfield.
Kia ora koutou. I just want to reiterate the sympathy and thoughts that we're extending to the families of all involved, as well as those injured, and particularly to the families of the 2 further people who we know passed away overnight as a result of the injuries following the eruption at Whakaari. And just to extend our araha and compassion to the families involved. And I have to say, I know that the staff at the hospitals that have patients affected from the eruption are doing excellent work as well, caring for the families and friends who are now largely there with those people. So as at 2 p.m. today, 21 patients remain in our burns units across the country. The repatriation to Australia of Australian citizens has been going exceptionally well, and this has taken significant pressure off our burns units. And over the last 24 hours, 4 flights have taken place, and another 4 flights are planned for today. So 7 Australian patients have so far been returned to Australia in intensive care capable aircraft, and 6 further patients are planned to be transferred in the following 24 hours. All patients who have been transferred to Australia are being cared for in specialist burn centres in Australia. The repatriation of remaining Australian patients will occur as their clinical state permits, and there is very close liaison between our clinicians here and those in Australia at the receiving centres. The patients remaining in our burns units include 2 New Zealanders and a mix of other nationalities. They continue to require the highest level of care, and a small number are very unwell. Our intensive care and burns teams throughout all of the burns units continue to work around the clock, putting in huge hours and showing, as we know they do, an unbelievable commitment to ensuring the very best care for patients. Now, this effort across Australia and New Zealand is requiring unprecedented levels of coordination across our health system, including continued provision of supplies, moving those around the country, and also, as you know, access to skin for grafts from Australia and the United States. We're also receiving a number of offers for specialist medical teams from the UK, USA and Australia to travel to New Zealand to assist. We are working rapidly to enable this to happen, and that will assist in providing much relief to our teams and help to ensure that we can continue to deliver the highest quality level of care to all patients over coming days, weeks and months. I don't have any further detail on that, but I will keep you informed as those offers consolidate and as teams come in from overseas. Now, this tragedy has had an impact on the usual business that DHBs have been undertaking, and we are discussing both regionally and nationally with other district health boards how we can share resources to minimise disruption and manage the pressure on busy staff. I understand that some elective surgeries, as you can imagine, have been postponed to ensure that there is available theatre time and staffing to meet the high demand that has been put on them as a result of this tragic incident. And as operations are prioritised, hospitals are working hard to ensure that those surgeries that have been postponed are kept to a minimum, and of course that those affected are kept updated. I just want again to thank the staff who have stepped up in this emergency. They have been fantastic and are providing excellent care for all those still requiring hospital care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. So I'll now hand over to GNS Science Graham Leonard, and we're going to put some maps actually up on the wall here. These will be provided electronically to you afterwards, but they're hot off the printer, as it were. Graham.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Kia ora. The status of Whakaari White Island volcano remains highly volatile and uncertain. Our experts estimate the likelihood of an eruption has moved to 50 to 60% in the next 24 hours, up from 40 to 60% yesterday. There is an ongoing, consistent trend in increasing tremor. So far, this has contributed to an increase in the likelihood of eruption estimates each day. Today is less safe than yesterday and the day before. This map shows the risk zones that GNS calculate for staff if they are considering fieldwork on the island. The other map shows the last pre-eruption calculation for Whakaari our staff made on 2nd of December. Every time GNS goes to the island, we use these risk assessments, even when the risk is very low. These zones are based on the likelihood of eruption that I just gave you, and the risk increases towards the crater and decreases out to sea. Effectively, the red zone is a no-go for GNS staff, and the other zones need special approval. As scientists, we need a strong reason to enter the yellow zones. Police make their own decisions. We have shared our internal risk assessment, shown here, with the police. These zones are dynamic, as the status of the volcano is highly volatile and uncertain, and these maps are currently being updated daily. Our GeoNet Volcano Monitoring Group are continuously monitoring the status of the volcano and are forecasting only for the next 24 hours at this stage, because the volcano is so volatile and the situation remains highly uncertain. The group has staff in Whakatane, and we are actively working with scientists there who are providing a critical role. So again, for our staff, the red zone is a no-go, and the other zones need special approval. We would need a strong reason to enter the yellow zones, and the police make their own decisions. We have shared our internal risk assessment, shown here, with the police. Thank you.
Thank you. So recognising that any decisions, as Graham has said, regarding the police decisions, these are operational issues for police. So that'll be something that will be picked up this afternoon when Mike Clement does his media stand-up. Any opportunities for questions?
As the person in charge of overseeing this entire thing, are you comfortable with police going in there?
So this is a police decision. They will take account of the risk assessment and take in all of those risk factors in informing their decision. But at the end of the day, this will be their decision, and I will support them in that decision.
So it's more dangerous today than it was yesterday. You're saying the risk of an eruption has increased since yesterday, and it will be over the next 24 hours, but they're planning a mission to the island tomorrow morning.
So there'll be an opportunity to hear more about that from police this afternoon.
So where the deceased are they expected to be in the red zone or the yellow zone? Where are you expecting them to be?
That's a matter for police this afternoon.
John Timms was meant to be at this media advisory as well.
Yes.
Is there a particular reason he's not here at the moment?
He's not here. That's correct. He's not here because they're actually working on the planning of this and informing families this afternoon. And Mike Clement will be the person doing the stand-up in Whakatane and able to answer questions regarding the planning and any other questions you might have about the police response and rescue operation.
Can I just ask from a scientific perspective?
Sure.
How do you determine where those zones end, and what kind of situation would it take for scientists to go out to each of the zones?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, the expert estimated likelihood of eruption I gave you is translated through a calculation method into basically a decreasing risk at distance from the crater, and that's symbolised by these zones. And so we've got a specific method for that for staff access if we need to go to the island. As scientists, we would need a strong reason to enter the yellow zones for the purposes of monitoring, for example. Police make their own decisions, and we have shared our internal risk assessments here, shown here with the police, in complete support of their decision making. But that's
so
with the
very
police.
coded language saying we told cops not to go in there.
No, that's not the case.
When did you brief police with these?
They've been supplied as they're generated during the day.
There's a new video out this morning showing a guide worried about the water near the crater turning green before the eruption. Was that a sign that an eruption was coming, or could it have been?
I'm not sure about the specifics of that, but it could have been. Yeah, I'm not sure of the timing or the specifics.
Speaking about the general public in the area, we're now on the second, possibly third day with the eruption. Likelihood has increased.
Mm-hmm.
What's your message to people who could be concerned? We're just heading for another large-scale eruption.
So I guess the scale of the eruption that we're forecasting here, we're talking about an eruption that could affect that crater floor area out to the jetty area. That's what we make an expert forecast on, and so we're estimating a 50 to 60% likelihood within 24 hours at the moment, but recognising the volcano is highly volatile and it could change very rapidly. So that's a current forecast, but it's highly uncertain because of that changing nature, especially of tremor.
And just to put it in perspective
Sure.
of the eruption we've already seen,
Yes.
what kind of area would have that covered?
Yeah, so that affected roughly a large amount of that red zone on the bottom map.
So this one is bigger?
So this is a risk forecast area, and it's a calculation based on distance. So it's a little more circular than an actual eruption might be, but it is the eruption that occurred on Monday affected an area not dissimilar to that red area at the moment on that map.
When you provide your briefings to the police and the constant information flow, do you give them at the same time an indication what you think they should do?
No, in no way. Every agency has different reasons that they may need to evaluate risk and make decisions. As I said, scientists would need a strong reason to enter the yellow zones for our monitoring purposes. They have very different reasons, and they have their own decision-making process.
And have you never, over this whole period, given an indication what you think they should do?
No.
Or it's just a straight information exchange?
Correct.
Would you go to the island tomorrow?
I'm not in any need to travel to the island. We do not believe, for the purposes of monitoring, that we need to land on the island at the moment.
So as a citizen, would you go to the island tomorrow?
I'm sorry, that's just not the position I'm in. I'm working as a volcano monitoring scientist. Sorry.
Can we just clarify, when were those maps drawn
These maps were drawn up during today, so the elicitation of that forecast probability is late morning, and we're able to calculate the maps within a period of time after that. So they were drawn up during the early afternoon, I believe.
It would be fair to say that police have made the decision to re-enter tomorrow and they've had this latest information on their deaths.
Yes, I believe so.
You believe so?
Yes. So I would not personally have given it to them, so I believe that has been transferred, yes. I'm quite sure of that.
A question for the Ministry of Health, Secretary. Speaking about burns units across the country, obviously
Yes.
a few people have been sent back to Australia. What's the pressure like at the moment on, those spaces up in the country?
Look, a lot better than it was, and I just can't, put enough emphasis on how helpful it is, the efforts the Australians have made, and especially with those 6 further people scheduled to go. That means we'll have 15 people left in our burns units across the country. I think you might recall yesterday at the stand-up, Dr. Peter Watson saying that actually the amount of significant burns they had seen from this event was what they would normally see in a whole year. So this is creating significant pressure on our units. It's much better now. We're extremely grateful to the Australian government for supporting us in that.
Why did you need to bring so much skin over from America, and how much is coming from Australia?
Now, my understanding is the Australian Skin Bank has already sent us 10,000 square centimetres, and we've already ordered about 100,000 square centimetres and expecting to order more from the USA. That just really gives an indication of the extent of the burns suffered by those who are injured.
Can that get here quickly enough?
Sorry?
Can that get here quickly enough, and what's the risk of infection in the meantime?
It's on the way, and it doesn't relate to the risk of infection. That's just the treatment that will happen, and then the healing can support healing. But it's on the way, and it will be the first order's already been made, and it'll be on the way.
Can you give us a rundown of where the patients are and which hospitals?
I can, yes. So at Middlemore Hospital, we have 8 patients. 7 are in critical condition. 1 patient is serious but stable. At Waikato, there are 4 patients still, and all 4 are critical. We have 4 patients still at Hutt Hospital. 2 of those are critical. 1 is serious but stable, and 1 is stable. And finally, at the burns unit in Christchurch, we have 5 patients. 3 are critical, and 2 are serious but stable. So as you can glean from those numbers, we still have a number of people who are in a critical condition.
Are most critical in Middlemore? Is that how that's been apportioned?
The most critical will be in Middlemore, and as spaces have become available, particularly as people have been medevaced back to Australia, you'll notice now there are no patients at Tauranga Hospital nor at Auckland Hospital.
Those repatriations, you mentioned there's been several already back to Australia, but more are set to go underway.
Yes.
Where are those patients coming from around the country, and whereabouts are they getting back?
Yes, coming from all around the country. The first one was out of Wellington Hospital yesterday, actually. There were several out of Christchurch. Then one early this morning out of Auckland from the burns unit, and then today they're from all those areas as well as Hamilton, and most are heading back to Sydney. There's been one go to Melbourne, my understanding, and there could be one also going to Adelaide. But the Australian hospitals and burns units have quite a lot of capacity. Most are going to Sydney.
Talking about those skin grafts again, it's not a donation as such. The ministry has to pay for those, right? Is that quite an expense?
Yes, actually, the skin grafts are $4 per square centimetre, so we've already ordered about $1.5 million worth of skin, and we actually agreed to that, signed that off at the ministry for that, for counties Manukau to put that order in.
That's Australia and the United States.
That was for the order in the US, yes.
With the New Zealanders, what was the status of the 2 New Zealanders?
I don't have the status of individual patients, sorry.
Was the measurement of skin graft yesterday not 1.2 million square centimetres?
I think that was what it was anticipated initially. However, of course, with the evacuation of people back to Australia, I imagine that the total amount required will be less.
You mentioned a small number of people are very unwell.
Yes.
What did you mean by that, and how many do you hold concern for?
Well, I think all those patients whose condition is still listed as critical, they are very unwell and requiring a lot of very intensive care.
Seems like a majority of Is the people
It is the majority of people there, yes.
Yesterday it said that 22 people were still needing airway support. What's that number sitting at now?
I couldn't say exactly, but generally speaking, anyone who is critical will still be having airway support and be ventilated, and a number of those who are in serious but stable condition as well.
I don't know if you get to answer this, but we had the 9 people still missing, 8 of those believed on the island. There was the 1 person in hospital still unidentified. Is that being...
Yes, all the people who are hospitalised are now fully identified. Okay, thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. Any other last questions?
I'm going to ask you again, I don't know if you're going to answer it, but are you comfortable, fully comfortable with sending people off the island?
So the responsibility for that decision rests with police, and they've gone through their own process. They'll be able to talk more to that this afternoon, but I just need to be clear, it's not my decision. Although I'm the overall lead agency, the responsibility for determining recovery on the island rests with police.
If it was your decision, what decision would you make?
I don't know, because I don't have all the information available to me. That information is with police, and they have their own risk profile process that they undertake, so these are questions for police.
But your staff will go, some of your staff will go on this recovery mission?
No, none of the emergency management agency staff will go.
Who will go? Police?
You'll need to talk to police about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was an update from Wellington in New Zealand on the prospects for the recovery operation to begin to bring the bodies off the volcano that erupted on Monday. Seismologists judged that there is a 50 to 60% chance of another eruption in the next 24 hours, we were told. And there is a graph of seismic activity that shows a spike there in the red on the right-hand side, which depicts the actual volcanic eruption on Monday. And then the latest activity is on the far right, on the edge of the graph there, and it shows that levels are practically the same as they were when the eruption occurred. That illustrates how volatile the island is. Nevertheless, police say they are finalising a plan to start bringing bodies off the volcano tomorrow morning. And an update on the survivors. There are now 21 people in hospitals in New Zealand. 16 of them are in a critical condition, and $1.5 million worth, New Zealand dollars worth of skin has been ordered to help in the recovery and the treatment of those burns from the US. Skin has also been sent to New Zealand from Australia to help in the burn treatments, and there will be an update from New Zealand Police outlining their recovery plans for tomorrow. That'll happen later this afternoon.